Story of a family trip to the Grand Canyon? I pressed my palm against the hot metal side of the RV, the heat biting through my skin like a warning. Around me, the Arizona sun turned the asphalt into a mirror of fire. My daughter Amanda stepped out of the mini-mart first, sunglasses perched on her head, bags of snacks dangling from her hand. Without waiting, she shoved two into the crook of my arm. Her smile was polite, practiced, meant for strangers' eyes, not mine. My son-in-law Brent followed, cracking open a soda, smirking as if the world belonged to him. Sudden and casual, he said, "Come on, Mom, either carry the bags or walk home." The words sliced the air clean. For a second I thought I misheard. Walk home? From the middle of nowhere? My son-in-law, saying it like a joke, while Amanda looked away. I felt the weight of the plastic bags digging into my wrist. When did I stop being seen as a person? When did I become just a pair of hands? I am Eleanor Sanders, 68 years old, widow, mother, a woman who spent decades patching coats instead of buying new ones, skipping meals so her daughter could eat better, saving every dollar to keep family afloat. Now I knew. The debt they believed I owed was already paid in full. Subscribe if you like this kind of story. 2 weeks ago. The phone rang late in the afternoon. I was stirring a cup of tea, alone as usual. On the screen, her name appeared, Amanda. My heart startled the way it always did when she called first, not out of habit, but out of rarity. I picked up. "Mom?" Her voice was brisk, clear, like she was closing a deal. "This summer we're doing a road trip. Grand Canyon. You should come with us." "You've never seen it, have you?" I froze for a second. George used to talk about going someday. We never made it. Now my daughter was offering to take me. The thought should have felt sweet. Instead, I hesitated. Before I could answer, Amanda rushed on, words tumbling like they were rehearsed. "Don't worry about a thing. We'll handle it all. You won't have to do anything. Just be there." I let out a small laugh. "Are you sure? I don't want to be a burden." She cut me off, her voice tightening just a little. "Mom, seriously. It's fine. Just show up, okay? The less you think, the better. Trust me." It sounded reassuring on the surface, but underneath, it stung. Like she wasn't inviting me as a person, but as a placeholder. My eyes drifted to the glass vase, sitting empty on the table. It had been there since her last visit, when she said, "Why keep this, Mom? You don't host anyone anymore. No flowers, just dust." Still, I kept it. Better an empty vase than no vase at all. I swallowed. "All right, I'll come great." Her tone lifted, not with warmth, but with relief, as if she'd checked a box. "We already booked the RV. It'll be fun, Mom, whole family." Good memories. Good memories. The phrase landed wrong, like a slogan from one of her client pitches. Amanda hadn't sounded like my little girl in years, the one who used to sneak into bed after nightmares, whispering, "Mommy, you're my whole world." Now she spoke like someone selling me a package deal, and I bought it. Because I wanted to. Maybe this time she really means it. Maybe this time I won't feel like an afterthought. I didn't know then that saying yes would carry me straight to the moment her husband would laugh and toss down the line that ended it all. "You'll carry our bags or walk home, Mom?" The rental lot smelled like rubber and disinfectant. A line of white RVS sat in the sun like giant appliances. Amanda waved once from the shade, phone still in her hand, shades on her head, a smile that didn't quite reach me. "Mom." "Over here," she said, already turning to the clerk. "Yes, the Class C Brooks reservation." Brent popped the back door, and my suitcase barely made a sound when it slid in beside their hard cases and a crate of road trip essentials. He thumped the crate with his knuckles. "Snacks, paper goods, extra water. We're set." He looked pleased with himself, like a quartermaster. Inside, the RV clicked and hummed. Thin cabinets, a rattling vent, the AC pushing out air that was cool but tired. Amanda did a quick tour like a realtor. Queen bed in the back, great mattress, we need that for our backs, kitchenette, and this converts. She tapped the dinette, and the thin cushions gave a little sigh. "For me?" I asked softly. "It's just a few nights," she said brightly, already moving on. "You're tiny, Mom." "You'll be comfortable." The dinette bed folded down with a metallic cough and a puff of dust. I brushed the cushion with my palm. Something gritty clung to the skin. The window above it was narrow, more of a slot. A sleeping place designed for someone who wouldn't mind disappearing at night. At the counter, the clerk printed pages of fine print. Amanda nudged my elbow with her phone still open to her banking app. "Hey, can I just grab your card? Saves time, mine's got a daily cap. I'll Venmo later." She said it like we'd agreed on it last week. Last year, always. My purse was already unzipped before I noticed I'd done it. She slid the card to the clerk in one smooth motion, eyes never leaving the screen. When the terminal beeped, her thumb danced. My 4 numbers, remembered with the ease of an old habit. Brent leaned in, stage whisper. "Man, a vacation with a sponsor. We should do this every summer." He laughed in a way that wanted an audience. The clerk smiled because he didn't know better. I did the smaller thing. I smiled back. "Receipts in the folder," the clerk said, handing everything to Amanda. She tucked the folder into her tote, not mine. Little detail. Harmless, if it were only that. We pulled away from the lot, the RV shivering once as if bracing itself. Through the side mirror, I watched the building shrink, the last bit of shade vanish. Amanda angled the visor, talking into a voice message. "Yeah, we got it." "No, Mom's good. She's just along for the ride, just along." The words slid over me like cold water. Brent drummed the wheel. "All right, team. Pit stop in 20. We'll stock up more." "Mom, you don't get carsick, do you?" "Great. You can hop out and grab the bags so we can keep the engine running." Bags. The word hung there, ordinary and sharp at the same time. I ran my palm over the edge of the folded bed again, testing the wobble. Amanda reached past me to snap the latch, efficient, careful not to touch my hand. "We'll make this fun," she said, that polished cheerfulness she uses on clients. "Good memories, remember?" Outside, the sun flashed between highway signs. Inside, a plastic fork slid in its drawer with a small, nervous scrape. I held my smile where they could see it, the way you hold a door for someone who never looks up. Foreshadowing is a quiet thing. It doesn't knock. It settles, like dust, in places you'll try not to clean. I tucked my purse under the dinette and nodded as if the arrangement were generous. "Looks cozy," I said. Brent snorted. "Cozy is free. Queen costs extra." He grinned at his own joke. I let the laugh out of me, a careful, measured sound, and felt it leave my mouth without touching anything on its way out. Maybe it won't always be like this, I told myself. Maybe this is just the first day. The highway cut through red rock cliffs, layers stacked like old books on a shelf. Scrub pines clung to the slopes, and the desert wind smelled faintly of hot stone and tar. A plastic fork rattled in its drawer with every bump, a nervous little metronome. "We're hitting the park entrance," Brent said, adjusting the dial. "Let me put the podcast back on. They're just getting to the autopsy part." Amanda didn't look up. "Hi, team. Can you see me? 1 sec." She lifted her phone, smiling in that sharp, professional way. Then to me, still half on mute, "Mom, hotspot?" "The signal's crap here. I'll set it to auto-connect." "Saves time." Her fingers flew across my screen as if it were hers. A chime confirmed the connection. "Thanks, Mom. Just don't talk too loud, okay?" Wind noise on the mic. She turned back to her call. Her voice was sweet, practiced. Sweetness that belonged to someone else. At the gate, Brent reached back. "Pass?" Amanda leaned across me, pulled my wallet from the glove box like she'd done it 100 times, and handed my card to the ranger with a cheerful thank you. The gate lifted. No one asked if I wanted to go in. As the road narrowed, I tried again, testing the air like someone setting a fragile cup on a table. "When I was your age, your father sketched a map, said one day we'd come out here. That dark ridge there, that's old lava." Brent turned the volume up. The podcast voice thundered. "The 3rd victim was found." My words folded back inside me. Amanda raised a finger without looking, the universal shh, and leaned closer to her laptop screen. Out the window, a yellow sign flashed by. Scenic overlook, 1/4 mile. I lifted my hand slightly, almost ready to ask if we could stop. A black crow skimmed across the road, its shadow sweeping over the hood like a strike-through mark. Brent pressed the gas. "We'll do it later." Can't lose momentum here later. Minutes later, he braked hard at a roadside shack selling bumper stickers and keychains. "Hey, let's check for Grand Canyon merch." He killed the podcast, grinning. Priorities, right? Amanda laughed and jumped down from the RV, my hand, still half raised, curled into my lap. The map George once drew flickered in my memory, wobbly pencil lines, his steady voice. Someday, I'll take you here. That someday had waited decades, and now it was paved over by a detour for souvenirs. When we climbed back in, Amanda set her paper coffee cup down on the brochure I'd been reading. A wet ring spread across the exact spot I had circled. She didn't notice, or she did, and it didn't matter. She handed my phone back. The battery glowed 9%. We'll use your hotspot again tomorrow, Mom. It's perfect. I'll send you something later. She smiled, already scrolling her playlist. In the settings, AutoJoin was still on. I turned my face toward the window. The basalt ridges loomed dark against the sky, scars of an old eruption still visible, a promise frozen in rock. Amanda's voice lifted in another call. Brent laughed at something in his podcast. And I pressed my forehead against the cool glass, the landscape blurring. Not because I was out of stories to tell, but because it was suddenly so clear. Here, my voice was nothing more than wind noise on a mic. Ahead, the road sign warned, steep grade. A descent was coming. I didn't know if it was the road or me. The roadside diner glowed red under neon lights, the smell of frying oil clinging to the air like an old coat. Plastic chairs gleamed under buzzing fluorescence, menus laminated and sticky at the edges. I sat against the wall, listening to the tired wheeze of the air conditioner. Brent flipped through the menu like closing a toolbox. Double burger, extra fries. Amanda, you? Salad. Dressing on the side. Her eyes never left her phone. When the plates came, Brent patted his pocket, frowning. Damn. Wallet's in the car. And my card's been acting up since we crossed state lines. Mom, you cover this one, yeah? Makes it easier. That word. Easier. Landed like an order. No, please, no promise. Just a shortcut that always ran through my purse. Amanda finally looked up, smiling thinly. Mom, just grab it this time. We'll send it later, and maybe pull out some extra cash tomorrow, yeah? A lot of these places are cash only. Just convenient that way? I nodded. All right. 2 small syllables. No agreement anymore, just habit. I slid my card and the machine beeped. The server handed the receipt, not to me, but directly into Amanda's waiting hand. She tucked it neatly into her travel folder as if it had always belonged there. I watched that small gesture and felt something twist inside. I paid, but the proof slipped into her pocket. My effort, her record, it was a familiar pattern. As I closed my wallet, a coin slipped through my fingers, rolling beneath the booth in a hollow circle. I bent down, but couldn't reach. A young busboy fished it out with a broom handle and handed it back politely. You can keep it, I said, forcing a smile. My voice sounded too small, even to me. Thank you, ma'am. He nodded, already looking away. Everyone here had their own tasks. Outside, the desert night pressed cool and dry. Amanda pulled her cardigan closer. Tonight we've got the stargazing tour. Only 2 slots left, so Brent and I booked them. You should rest, Mom. It gets cold out there, lots of walking. The words were framed like care, but underneath was exclusion. No one asked if I wanted to see the stars. They decided my role, stay behind. I swallowed what almost rose. I'd like to go too, and turned it into a faint smile instead. I left a blanket for you on the bench, Amanda added, like ticking off a checklist. Brent nudged her with his elbow. Don't wait up, Mom. We'll be late. The RV door closed behind them. Their laughter carried across the lot before fading into the growl of a Jeep engine. Inside, silence filled the narrow space. The microwave hummed as I poured boiling water over instant noodles, the steam curling with the smell of dried scallions. Outside, headlights swept briefly across the ceiling before vanishing into the desert. I dimmed the lights and sat on the folding bench, tilting my head back. Through the narrow window, the night sky spilled open, black velvet stitched with 1,000 coal diamonds. The Milky Way arched like a river I could almost step into. I thought of George and the penciled map he once drew, his steady hand tracing places he swore we'd see together. A promise that never came due. Now the only promise was receipts tucked in my daughter's bag, coins slipping from my fingers, and words like convenience weighing heavier than they sounded. I gathered the scraps from dinner, napkins, wrappers, bottle caps, tied them into a small plastic bag. My hand knew the motion by heart, carrying what others left behind. I set the noodles down, steam fogging the glass. Beyond it, the stars glowed steady, indifferent. Inside, my hand trembled as I zipped my wallet shut, not from cold. Because I finally understood, on this trip I wasn't counted as a companion. I was counted as the purse and the spare pair of hands. The stars outside the RV window looked like scattered salt across black velvet. I leaned closer to the glass, steam from my cup of noodles blurring the view, and suddenly the years folded back on themselves. It wasn't always like this. I see George. We were 22, living in a one-bedroom apartment that smelled faintly of paint thinner and boiled rice. The wallpaper peeled in the corners. The carpet was threadbare. We sat cross-legged on the linoleum floor, 2 chipped bowls of instant noodles between us. We had $23 left in the bank that week. George lifted his fork, eyes bright even in the dim light of a single lamp. "One day," he said, "we'll have steak on this table. But for now, we've got each other." And I laughed. It was true. Back then, happiness wasn't measured in what we lacked. It was measured in how tightly we held on. I ate noodles again tonight, but George is gone. The RV hums around me like a machine trying to pretend it's a home. My purse is full enough, but my chair is empty. The taste is the same, but everything else is missing. Another memory. Amanda was 3. A summer night when her little body burned with fever. I sat by her bed, cool cloth against her forehead, whispering nonsense songs just to keep her calm. On my lap, a torn school dress, needle pricking my finger as I patched it under the dim glow of the kitchen light. She stirred, whispering, "Mommy, don't go." "I'm here," I told her. "Always here." I remember the rent being overdue, the shoes I wore until the soles split, patched twice before I finally gave them up. I remember skipping dinner so she'd have more. I believed then it's worth it. She'll understand one day. She'll know what it cost me. Now Amanda wears silk blouses and scrolls through listings while asking me to cover dinner. She doesn't remember the patched dresses or the nights of fever. Or maybe she remembers and simply doesn't care. That's worse. And then, after George. The house was too quiet. I filled it with noise. 3 jobs stacked one on top of another. Mornings at the library, shelving returned books until my back ached. Evenings babysitting children who weren't mine, reading them stories until my throat dried. Nights answering phones in an office that smelled of ink and old paper. Some months I finished with $18. Once, 22. I wrote every bill in neat columns on yellow paper, calculating and recalculating, as if order could protect us from collapse. I prayed the water heater wouldn't break. I prayed Amanda wouldn't need new shoes too soon. I told myself, hold on. Keep it together. Someday she'll see. Someday she'll thank me for carrying her through the fire. But today, she doesn't thank me. She hands me the check. She calls it convenience. The stars shimmer outside, unchanged. The same stars George once promised we'd watch together. The same stars Amanda once pointed at with a chubby finger, gasping, "Make a wish, Mommy." The stars haven't moved. The people have. And me, I've moved too. Back then, sacrifice felt like an investment. Now, it feels like erasure. I rest my hand on the glass. The coolness steadies me. No, my past wasn't meaningless. It made me strong. Strong enough to finally realize strength isn't for carrying bags that don't belong to me. The stars stay eternal, but tonight, for the first time, I feel something stir in me that is also eternal. A quiet refusal. Noon heat shimmered off the concrete like glass. The mini-mart doors hissed open and shut, spitting out thin ribbons of cold air. Amanda stepped out first, sunglasses pushed up on her hair. Brent followed with 4 plastic bags swinging heavy with bottles of water, soda cans, snacks, and cheap souvenirs. "Mom, hold these for a minute," Amanda said lightly, almost sweetly, not waiting for my answer as she shoved 2 bags into the crook of my arm. The plastic dug into my wrist, the bottles clinking against bone. I shifted, trying to balance the weight. Brent cracked a soda with a pshrat, grinning. "We're on a tight schedule, Mom." "Make it quick. My back is tightening. Let Brent carry at least 1 more bag." I tried. Amanda smiled that polite practice smile, scanning the lot as if for witnesses. "It's just a couple of bags." "Don't make a scene." "Mom." From the pump nearby, a truck driver glanced over. By the mini-mart doorway, the cashier leaned on the frame, receipt roll in hand. I felt like part of a play everyone else had seen before. Me, cast as the woman holding the weight. "Did you hear me?" I asked again, slower, almost pleading. Brent chuckled, waving his soda can. "Oh, come on. You're not doing anything. You'll carry our bags or walk home, Mom." The words hit the concrete sharp as a dropped coin. I straightened. "Nothing?" 3 dinners. $146, $89, $102. 2 tanks of gas, $132. $60 in tips, for convenience. Who covered those? Brent shrugged, lazy. "Nobody asked you to." "You just like turning simple things into drama?" Amanda leaned close, lowering her voice to a blade's edge. "Mom, please." "Not here." "People are watching." "Exactly," I said, voice low but steady. "They're watching how you treat your mother." I let the pause stretch. Even the RV's humming AC seemed to shift gears. In your house, kindness got reclassified as obligation. And I let it happen by staying silent. Brent smirked, raising his can. "If it's that hard, then walk home." A ripple passed through the lot. The truck driver stopped pumping gas. The cashier at the door tilted her head. The air thinned. I opened my purse and pulled out the credit card that I had carried this trip. My thumb slid along the strip. "You've gotten used to this. Mom pays, Mom carries, Mom stays quiet." "Not anymore." I took the nail scissors from my wallet. Snap! The card broke clean in half. A murmur rose, small but undeniable. Amanda froze, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Brent blinked. The soda can halted midair. I tapped my phone screen. Click. The hotspot blinked off. Amanda's Zoom call cut off. "From now on, your work is yours," I said. Calm. Final. I bent and placed each bag on the ground. Not tossed, placed. I straightened the straps and propped the bottles so they wouldn't roll. Then I lifted my head. Listen closely, because I'll only say this once. Love without respect is just an endless debt. As of today, that account is closed. I will not carry what isn't mine anymore. No bags, no bills, no guilt. If traveling with you means being erased, then I'll walk alone. I'd rather burn in sunlight than freeze in contempt. For the first time, Amanda's face cracked. Behind the polish, I glimpsed the little girl who once clung to me in fever, whispering, "Mommy, don't go." "Mom," she said, voice trembling, softer than I'd heard in years. Brent opened his mouth for another joke, but one of the plastic bags tore. Bottles spilled, one cracked, water spreading dark across the cement. The sound was sharp, final. People turned. The truck driver gave me a small nod. The cashier's gaze held mine, steady, almost approving. I pulled a blank slip from my purse, borrowed a pen, wrote quickly, "Carry your own bags now." "So will I said it atop the pile. "You want to know why this happened?" I asked, voice carrying. "Because you trained yourselves to believe I was just spare hands and a walking wallet." Because Brent hides control inside a joke, because Amanda confuses management with love, and because I let it go on too long, until injustice felt normal. I shouldered my own bag. "You told me I could walk home." "So I will, only this time it's the home I choose." I turned, steady, not rushing, not trembling. Behind me, an empty can clattered across the pavement, rolled to a stop. The cashier stepped out, murmured, "Ma'am, there's a shuttle behind the station. Canyon Falls." I nodded, thanked her. As I rounded the corner, a few hands clapped. Not loud, not mocking, just enough to say, "We saw," and maybe, for once, Amanda and Brent saw too. Amanda's voice cracked the air. "Mom!" But I didn't turn. By the time they steadied themselves and hurried past the pumps, the shuttle coughed once and pulled away. Not pride, not revenge, just direction. The lesson was still on the ground, glistening in spilled water. When the kind finally say, "Enough," cruelty has nowhere left to hide. And sometimes the most human act is to set the weight down, so those who grew lazy in taking can finally learn to carry their own. The bus rattled to a stop like it was holding itself together by stubbornness alone. I stepped down onto the pavement, purse pressed tight against me, and for a moment I thought the town might vanish if I blinked. Canyon Falls was small, quieter than any place I'd been in years. A gas station, a square with a fountain, a row of shuttered shops with flower boxes that had seen better days. I followed the painted sign, "Jeanette's Inn, rooms available." and almost laughed. Jeanette? I hadn't spoken that name in decades. The bell over the inn's door jingled as I pushed it open, and there she was, flower on her apron, hair gone silver, but her eyes the same. Sharp, steady, taking me in. "Eleanor," she said, blinking. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. Jeanette. Of all places. She didn't hesitate, just opened her arms, pulled me in like no time had passed at all. And for a moment I wasn't the woman who'd walked away from a gas station parking lot. I was the girl who once whispered secrets to her best friend in a schoolyard. We sat at a wooden table by the window, tea steaming between us. "So," Jeanette said, tilting her head, "what are you doing here of all places?" I smiled without humor. Running away. Or maybe running toward. Hard to tell the difference. Her eyes narrowed, not unkind. "It's your daughter, isn't it?" I flinched. "That obvious?" She leaned back, wiping her hands on her apron. "I've got a son. 3 years since he called me, said I abandoned him, but all I did was stop paying his rent. That broke something loose in me." I laughed, too sharp, too brittle. "Amanda invited me on a trip. Told me it was for family, and somewhere along the way I wasn't family anymore. Just luggage." A walking wallet with a pair of hands. Jeanette studied me. "So you walked." I put the bags down. Right there on the concrete I could still hear the plastic tearing, bottles rolling, Brent's laugh catching in his throat. Jeanette nodded like she'd been waiting years to hear me say it. "About damn time." We fell into silence. Outside, children tossed pebbles at the fountain, their laughter carrying through the open window. I watched them, and my chest tightened. "When did it change, Jeanette?" I asked softly. "When did Amanda stop reaching for my hand?" Was it when I said no to her second wedding? When she started making more money than I ever dreamed of? Or was it earlier, when I said yes too many times, and she learned yes meant I could be forgotten? Jeanette reached across the table, touched my wrist. "Doesn't matter when it started. What matters is whether you still hand her the eraser." Her words landed like a stone in water, rippling through everything I'd carried. I stared into my tea, the surface trembling in my hands. For years I believed love meant sacrifice, but maybe too much sacrifice just teaches people you're disposable. Maybe the first bag I should have put down wasn't at the gas station. Maybe it was years ago, when I carried everything without asking to be seen. I lifted my eyes to hers. "No, not anymore." And for the first time in longer than I could remember, the word didn't taste like loss. It tasted like freedom. The days in Canyon Falls moved differently, slower. Like the town had no clock, only sunlight and the sound of water. I woke each morning to the bell of the small church down the street, its chime soft as a heartbeat. No Greg barking orders, no Amanda tapping her nails impatiently. Just the creak of old wood beneath my feet and the smell of bread drifting from Jeanette's kitchen. On the second day, I walked through the square. The fountain bubbled steadily, children circling it with sticks, sending ripples across the surface. A shopkeeper was arranging postcards on a rack, their edges curling from the sun. One card caught my eye, a painting of the canyon, rough strokes of red and gold. Not perfect, but real. I bought it. My first purchase for myself in years. I carried it in my bag like a secret. Afternoons, I sat in the inn's garden with a notebook. At first, my pen hesitated. What was there to write? But soon the words came. Small things, the smell of lavender near the fence, the sound of a bicycle clattering over cobblestones, the way the hills turned silver at dusk. Then, bigger things. The first time Amanda rolled her eyes at me. The night George told me I was the strong one, and I thought he was wrong. The moment at the gas station when Brent's laugh snapped something in me clean. Jeanette brought me tea sometimes, leaning on the doorframe. "Still writing?" she'd ask. "Yes," I'd say. "For once, it's just for me." She'd nod. That's how it starts. Piece by piece, you put yourself back on the page. One evening, I wandered to the edge of town. The path sloped down to the river, where willow branches dipped into the water. I sat on a rock watching the current. For years, I'd been like that river, steady, giving, carrying everyone else along. But here, with no one tugging at me, I realized I could choose my own course. I thought of Amanda, of her laughter when she was small, sticky fingers reaching for mine. Then her voice at the gas station was sharp and dismissive. When did she stop needing me? When did I stop being allowed to be me? The ache was still there, but for once it didn't anchor me. It floated, like driftwood. I let it go downstream. That night, back in my room, I placed the postcard of the canyon on the table next to my notebook. For years, I'd smiled through everything, shrinking myself small enough to fit into their lives. But here, in this small town, I was expanding again. Not loudly, not with fanfare, but with each step, each page, each breath that was mine alone. For the first time in decades, I didn't feel like luggage. I felt like a woman with a window, a pen, and a life that still belonged to her, and that was enough. The square at Canyon Falls was glowing with late afternoon light. The fountain gurgled softly at its center, children tossing pebbles into the ripples. Shops along the cobblestone street were shutting for the day, flower boxes leaning tiredly out of shuttered windows. I sat inside Jeanette's inn, by the window with my notebook open, a cup of tea cooling at my hand. The air smelled of butter and lemon from her kitchen. That was when the SUV rolled up to the curb. Shiny, out of place in this quiet town. The window slid down and I saw a flash of Amanda's sleek hair, her sunglasses pushed high. Brent climbed out behind her, his shirt creased, his phone still in his hand. They spotted me instantly. For a heartbeat, Amanda's face lit with relief. Then it dropped into something heavier. Confusion, maybe even shame. Mom. Her voice cracked as it reached me. Jeanette appeared in the doorway with a tray of fresh rolls, eyes narrowing as she took in the sight. I gave her a small nod. It's all right. Let them in. Amanda walked across the floor first, pulling off her sunglasses. Her eyes were rimmed red, lashes stiff with mascara. Brent trailed behind, tapping his phone, screen glowing with a wall of missed calls. I'd seen the numbers that morning, 17 attempts. We were worried, Amanda said, sliding into the seat opposite me. Her tone was light, practiced, but her hands trembled. You left without a word. The car? Your things? Brent forced a smile. All there. Everything's fine, just missing you. Jeanette's voice cut sharply from the counter. Missing her wallet, more like. Amanda stiffened, shot her a glance, then looked back at me. Mom, just come with us. Let's finish the trip as a family. Don't make this worse. People saw you at that station. It looked bad. I leaned forward, voice steady. What looked bad, Amanda? The way you spoke to me, or the fact that strangers noticed? Her lips pressed tight. It was a mistake. We were tired. We said things we didn't mean. No, I said softly. You meant them. You've been meaning them for years. Brent dropped into the chair beside her, exhaling hard. All right, fine. We messed up. But you can't just disappear. There's the RV, the bookings, the bills. There it is, I said, and the truth. It's about the bills. He spread his hands, trying for charm. Let's call it even. Come back. Let's say it was all a misunderstanding. We'll move on. I studied Amanda instead. When did you start needing me only for the receipts and the photos? When did I stop being your mother and become your background? Her throat bobbed. Mom, I just wanted us all together. In the photos, where was I, Amanda? Behind the camera, holding the bags, or off to the side? Never in the frame, Brent snorted. We're not here for philosophy. Just... Jeanette's voice cut in low and dry. You're here to apologize. That's the only ticket to sit at this table. Silence stretched. Outside, a bird dipped into the fountain. Amanda's shoulders slumped. I'm sorry, she whispered. For what? I asked. She blinked, tears brimming. For pushing you out of the picture. For treating your money like air. For letting for convenience replace thank you. Brent shifted, restless. Yeah, sorry. I said stupid things. But when we couldn't reach you... His voice faltered. He looked away. It scared me. I let the words settle. Fear isn't love. Fear is realizing you lost the person carrying the load. Love is never asking her to carry it in the first place. Amanda leaned forward, her voice raw. What do you want? Just tell us. What would make you come back? I shook my head slowly. Wrong question. It's not about what makes me return. It's about whether you can walk without me. From now on, I don't negotiate dignity. The only terms are respect, boundaries, and carrying your own weight, literal and otherwise. As for this trip, I looked past them toward the sunlit square. I got off the bus already. Amanda gave a broken laugh. So you'll just stay here? As long as I choose, I said, smiling faintly. For once, that answer belongs to me. Her face crumpled just a little. When did you drift so far from me? I met her gaze. The day you stopped asking if I was tired. The day thank you turned into for convenience. The day your family photo became just the three of you. And the 1000th day I told myself don't make a scene. I taught you that I was always available. That was my mistake. Brent exhaled, finally silent. Amanda's voice came smaller. Can we see you again? Not for money, just to try again? Of course, I said. My chest eased with the words. But not today. Today you learn your first lesson at that gas station. Anyone who says walk home has to start walking. Brent gave a small, jerky nod as if swallowing something bitter. Amanda picked up the postcard I'd left on the table, a rough watercolor of the canyon, imperfect brushstrokes. She set it back gently. It's beautiful, she murmured. Not perfect, I said, but true. They left quietly, the SUV's engine rumbling back down the street. I stayed with my tea, my notebook, my steady breath. There were no fireworks, no triumph. Just a lightness, like setting down a stone I'd carried too long. The old questions brushed my mind again. When did my child turn into someone who couldn't see me? Which signs did I ignore? Each memory flashed. The photos without me, the hotel bill sliding across the table, the hotspot automatically connecting, a trail of small erasures. And me, nodding, silent, complicit. Not anymore. Jeanette touched my hand firm and warm. Breathe. I inhaled, the butter, the tea, the faint smell of sun-warmed stone. Do you think they understood? Enough to begin, she said. The rest isn't theirs to carry. It's yours. And for the first time in years, I believed her. My victory wasn't dragging them back into my arms. It was bringing me back into my own. The inn's window faded behind me, but Amanda's eyes lingered in the rearview mirror. She kept them there too long, as if staring might bring me back. Brent drummed his fingers on the steering wheel, a steady, grating rhythm that filled the silence. Happy now? He snapped finally. You had to push her? Drag out all that sentimental guilt. And what do we get? Nothing. Amanda whipped her head toward him. Me? You're the one who said it. Carry our bags or walk home. Who says that to their mother? He snorted. It was a joke. She didn't take it as a joke. She never does. She always makes drama where there isn't any. The car bumped over a pothole. Amanda gripped the door handle, jaw tight. Drama? She paid for the trip. She covered dinner, gas, everything. And you sit there and call it drama? Brent's laugh was sharp, humorless. Oh, so now you're on her side? Funny, because I remember you letting her do it. Mom, just cover this. It'll be easier. Amanda flinched at her own words, echoed back. That was different. Different how? Brent pressed. You didn't stop her. Neither of us did. Why should we? She always paid. She liked it. Amanda slammed her palm against the dashboard. She didn't like it, Brent. She endured it, and now she's gone. The words hung heavy, filling the cab with something raw. Brent shifted uncomfortably. She'll come back. She always does. Amanda shook her head, eyes glistening. Not this time. For a while neither spoke. Only the sound of the tires, the low hum of the engine. Amanda swiped at her cheeks, angry at herself for crying. She looked... Her voice cracked. She looked calmer without us. Did you see that? Like she was free? Brent clenched the wheel tighter. So what? We let her stay in that dumpy town with some nosy innkeeper? That's not freedom, that's... He broke off, staring at the road ahead. Amanda's reply was soft, almost a whisper. Maybe freedom is just being somewhere we can't reach her. The SUV rolled on, carrying their argument into the twilight, while back at Canyon Falls, the fountain still gurgled and the square settled into quiet. Morning light spilled over Canyon Falls like a slow pour of honey. The church bell tolled 7, not urgent, just steady. I opened the shutters of my small room at Jeanette's Inn, and cool air touched my face. No one barking orders, no one is asking me to hurry, just birds in the square and the soft creak of wood under my feet. Downstairs, Jeanette slid a plate toward me, warm bread, apricot jam, a wedge of soft cheese. "Eat slow," she said with a wink. "This town isn't going anywhere." I smiled, tearing the bread with my fingers. For the first time in years, I didn't eat quickly out of habit. I let the jam stain my thumb. I licked it clean without shame. After breakfast, I wandered through the narrow streets. The shops were small, each with hand-painted signs. At a bakery window, a boy no older than 10 pressed his nose to the glass, pointing at sugared rolls. His grandmother chuckled, bought him 2, and slipped one into his hand. He grinned, turned to me as if to share his joy. The sight pierced me. Once, Amanda had pulled me by the hand toward candy stands, her eyes shining just the same. I remembered buying her licorice twists with the last coins in my purse. She had hugged me so hard I dropped the bag. Now she hugged her phone tighter than I. The ache rose, but instead of swallowing it down, I let it sit, then let it pass, like the church bells, like the river. Here and gone, and still the air remained. In the afternoon, I sat by the fountain with my notebook. The pages filled not with chores, not with lists of things for others, but with pieces of myself. I am not luggage. I am not a wallet. I am not invisible. I paused, pen hovering. Children laughed nearby, splashing at the fountain's edge. The water shimmered. I am still here. And that is enough. I closed the notebook, slipped it into my bag, mine alone. That evening, Jeanette poured 2 cups of tea and we sat by the window together. She watched me quietly, then said, "You look different already." I tilted my head. How? Like a woman who put something heavy down and forgot to pick it back up. I chuckled softly. Maybe I finally remembered it wasn't mine to carry. The square outside dimmed into twilight, lanterns flickering on one by one. For the first time in longer than I could measure, I felt no urgency, no weight, just the gentle pull of a life that belonged at last to me. On her last morning in Canyon Falls, Eleanor folded her clothes carefully into the small suitcase she had brought. It wasn't much, half of what she had started with. She paused by the window, watching the fountain in the square, and let the view etch itself into her memory. Not as a place to cling to, but as a reminder. Peace was possible. Jeanette slid the bill for the room across the counter. "You found what you needed?" she asked. "I did," Eleanor said, "and now I need to go home." Jeanette only nodded. Some encounters were never meant to be permanent. Eleanor wheeled her case to the waiting bus and didn't look back. At the airport, she noticed how light she felt, carrying only her own bag. The memory of numbers ticked in her head like old receipts. 3 family dinners, $146, $89, $102. 2 tanks of gas, $132. Hotel tips, $60 slipped out of her hand without a thank you. To Amanda and Brent, those figures were trivial. To Eleanor, they were weeks of grocery money, half a winter's heating bill, the cost of a new pair of shoes she never bought. She remembered winters when she patched the same navy coat 3 times instead of replacing it, saving the $120 difference for Amanda's school trip. She remembered skipping dinners, telling herself tea was enough, just to keep her savings account untouched for Amanda's college textbooks, $480 that year alone. Those sacrifices had added up. They had shaped her bones. And then her daughter had turned it all into an expectation. Mom will cover it. She always does. Not anymore. Back in her city, Eleanor didn't return to the old house right away. Instead, she went to a modest apartment she had already arranged. 1 bedroom, a balcony, a view of the hills. Rent was $845 a month. It was enough. She called it right-sized. Her days fell into a new rhythm. Mornings with tea on the balcony, steam curling into the cool air. Walks to the bakery where a woman once slipped her a blueberry muffin for free. "You look like someone who remembers when these were 50 cents. Eleanor laughed because she did remember. Afternoons at the library. She borrowed 3 novels at once, something she hadn't dared do in years, when she was too busy clipping coupons and chasing bills. Evenings in her small kitchen, where she cooked for one, roasted vegetables, soup, sometimes just bread and cheese. But for the first time in decades, she plated it on the little tulip-rimmed dish she'd bought in France. Imperfect, but hers. She tracked her spending carefully, old habits intact. $37 on groceries, $2.50 for bus fare, $0 on anyone else's bills. The numbers didn't scare her anymore. They were hers alone. At night, she opened her notebook and wrote, Not lists for others, not reminders to pay, but truths she had swallowed for too long. I am not luggage. I am not a wallet. I am still here. She closed the book and placed it beside her bed. Her life wasn't grand. It wasn't rich in dollars. But it was finally rich in space, in breath, in mornings she didn't owe to anyone. And that, after 70 years of caring, felt like real wealth. I used to believe that growing older meant shrinking, taking up less space, asking for less, bending so others could stand taller, but I see it now. Age is not a debt to be collected. It is a crown of years, and it deserves respect. Amanda and Brent learned that too late. Maybe they still tell the story differently. Maybe they say I overreacted, that I made a scene. Or maybe, in the quiet of their own home, Amanda still hears her voice falter when she said, "Mom," softer than in years, and wonders how many times she had silenced that softness with convenience. I don't know. I don't need to know. What I do know is this. They told me, "You'll carry our bags or walk home." And I did. Not in the way they meant, not back to the house where I was invisible, but to a home that is mine. A home where silence is peace, not punishment. I remember the gas station lot, the sunlight bouncing off spilled water, the truck driver nodding, the cashier's steady gaze, the moment my scissors snapped through plastic and my voice, calm, unshaken, said, "Love without respect is just an endless debt. As of today, that account is closed." That was the true border crossing. Not between Utah and Arizona, not from a family trip to a runaway, but from erasure to existence. Now my mornings are quiet, filled with tea and pages of my own words. My afternoons are free, spent in libraries, markets, and parks. No one thanks me for carrying what was never mine, and that absence is a gift. I am not rich in money, but I'm rich in choice. I am not surrounded by family, but I'm surrounded by dignity. I am not the woman who nodded silently while being erased. I am the woman who finally set the weight down and walked away. So if you are reading this, holding your own breath the way I once did, hear me. You don't owe your silence. You don't owe your back, your hands, your wallet, or your joy to anyone who cannot say thank you. If they treat your kindness as an obligation, your love as leverage, your age as invisibility, then you are allowed to put the bags down. Because justice is not always thunder in the courts. Sometimes it is a woman at 70, straightening her shoulders, walking away, and teaching the world that carrying your own worth is the only load you should never set aside. And if that lesson feels heavy to those who once relied on my silence, then at last they are carrying their own. Thanks for listening. If this made you think, or if you've lived through something similar, subscribe, share your thoughts in the comments. Our channel is a space for sharing tales of the elderly woman and family revenge stories from people who have weathered life's storms. Follow for more, because sometimes the deepest form of revenge is simply living on your own terms.